Hello, my name is Lisa Shea, and this is part of a series on horror authors, horror stories, horror novels, and all things horror. So what we're going to talk about today, and move that out of the way, is one of my stories, Tinfoil Hat. This is a short story. It's 17 pages long and about 4,000 words, 53 words. So I'm presenting these stories in the order in which I wrote them, and a lot of the stories up until now have been about community types of topics that I'm interested in. So I talked about death row and how we treat people with mental challenges. I talked about the woman in the nursing home who's suffering from dementia and how she's not being heard. So a lot of things that concern me greatly but don't necessarily impact me directly. With Tinfoil Hat, this is one where I poured a lot of my own individual concerns, things that I encounter in my own personal life regularly that I wanted to bring up and explore and voice. So this is set in Worcester, which is a town right next door, and that's where I went to college, and that's where I've been for the next number of years. So I'm very familiar with Worcester. I'm very familiar with the changing of the bar scene, because when I started in college, there weren't TVs all over all the bars, and my boyfriend plays in dart bands and plays in a rock and roll band. So we go into bars quite a lot. And they have changed completely into places that are just walled with TV sets, and no one talks to each other. They're either staring at their phones or they're staring at the TV screen. So a lot of these different issues are issues that concern me. And also this whole thing about we have Wi-Fi signals, and as I'm saying this, I've got a Wi-Fi router sitting here right next to me that's broadcasting to the whole house. So I put it right next to my head where I'm working all day long. We've got cell phone signals. I've got a cell phone sitting right here next to me on my desk. So all these signals are blasting through us all day. And are they really that safe? I mean, sure, they're not going to kill me instantly if I hold my cell phone up to me. But it still can't be that great to have it pounding me all day, every single day. And it makes you wonder why we don't all try to move somewhere out to rural Alaska or somewhere that is not quite as inundated with all of these signals. And Worcester is even worse, because Worcester has 2 giant cell phone towers. And the area around it is where poorer people tend to have to live, because the rents are lower, because it's not a desirable area. So all the rich people move out into the suburbs where they're safer, and they end up stuffing all the poor people right next to these cell phone towers and factories and other things that is not healthy for us. So with all these concerns bubbling around my head, let's talk about Tinfoil Hat and unravel the layers that I put into this. So we start out a bar in Worcester called Ralph's. There are actually 2 bars in Worcester called Ralph's, and they're both amazing bars. So this is a fictional version of it, but I named it Ralph in homage. So this person is someone who has been out of college for a number of years, 20 years, and all of her friends have scattered to the 4 winds and are having interesting lives, and she's stuck here in Worcester, the rundown mill town. It's not that bad, but it has a poor reputation. Drinking stale raspberry margaritas, and life has passed her by. Her friends spread out in a diaspora like baby spiders, sending up their shoots and letting the winds take them to the far reaches of the world. I use the same sort of metaphor in Death Watch. I love this metaphor. I love spiders. I love the idea of happy baby spiders spreading out into the world. So I imagine I'll probably use this again because I like it so much. But she doesn't get to spread like a happy baby spider. She is stuck here in Worcester at Ralph's. And now Ralph's has glued TVs to every known surface so that no matter where you look, there's some sort of babbling TV. And people are staring at their smartphones and not even looking at the TV. So then we have an elderly gentleman who's at least 60, because when you're younger, 60 seems like the end of the world. And as you get older, 60 seems like a quite reasonable age. And he comments that he also sees this stuff going on, that everyone's just staring at their phones. And they start talking about the problems of cell phone towers and Wi-Fi. And she realizes that she never really thought about this, and he talks to her some about the details, about all the signals that go back and forth between cell phones and the towers. And we've got giant towers in the middle of Worcester. In the U.S., 99% of adults 18 to 29 have cell phones. And Worcester has 10 colleges. So there are just tons and tons of cell phones streaming movies, streaming all this other kind of stuff through the air, which is going through our bodies. That's lovely. So he thinks this isn't good. She agrees this isn't good. They talk about how the government that happily let people get black lung disease for years and years, and that was fine as long as the coal barons got their money. So I don't know if we can really trust the government to care about poor people in this kind of situation. They want the cell phone towers to work. So the cell phone tower is right near Worcester Commons. This is where a lot of people who have inexpensive rents live. And the problems can cause problems with fatigue, headaches, lack of concentration, things that happen to people. All right, so he gives her a testing device. And he says that he's concerned if the numbers go up over 1. And sitting here in Ralph's, the number's 92. So clearly, even just in Ralph's, it's not a great situation. But she decides to go home and go up. She's on the 6th floor, so she's closer to where the cell phone towers are actually broadcasting. You know, you figure at least people on ground level don't have it quite as bad. But if you're up high in a skyscraper next to a cell phone tower, it's in essence beaming right into your body. So she goes up, she tries out the RF meter. 1749, so it's a little higher than 1. She realizes something has to be done. So she gets aluminum foil. And I admit, I've had fantasies sometimes about doing this. Clearly I haven't, but it seems sort of appealing to me. Getting aluminum foil, building your own Faraday cage, and just lining all the walls and everything else with aluminum foil to block out the signals. So she goes around, she does all the walls, she does the windows, she gets it down from 1749 to 142. So she's making a big difference, a nice sizable measurable difference in the number of waves going through her apartment and body. So then she realizes that the floor is not masked and there's signals coming up through the floor because it's a giant space that has no blockage on it. So she goes off to the hardware store. She gets aluminum floor plates because if you put aluminum foil down, of course, your feet would just rip it up fairly quickly. So she goes to the apartment. She starts moving things around, moving bookcases, gets the entire floor layered with aluminum floor plates. And now she's down to 0.7 megawatts. I mean, this is an enormous difference. So she's done it. She's made her apartment nice and safe. She realizes that there's still a signal coming through the toilet area because she didn't wall off the toilet. So now she makes a little aluminum foil tent to put over the toilet and sink. And now she's down to 0.003. This is like amazing. She could hire out her room to people who want to come and hang out there and be nice and safe. So she is happy. She's really happy. She's at peace. Who knows? Maybe her brain is working a little better now that she's blocked off all the signals, or it could be a placebo effect. You know, and placebo effects are certainly things that work and help people's health. If someone believes that they're going to get better, and many times they have less stress, and the stress causes less inflammation and all that kind of stuff. So, sitting, relaxing, peaceful, calm, and she hears her mom talking to her. Now, her mom has passed away, and this is, you know, her psychology kicking in, that now she's able to hear the voice of her mother because everything else has finally calmed down and quieted in her life. And the mother says, yes, it's me, sweetie. And the voice holds gentle warmth. So it's a nice, pleasant thing. Oh, she gets to think about her mother. And she thinks about how sad it had been when her mother passed away. And then her mother starts in with, I see you're still alone. You're too picky, you know. You have too high a standard for yourself. And she reminds her that their church has been torn, Lady of Mount Carmel, which was a beautiful church in Worcester that they did, in fact, tear down, so it's another sign of what's going on in Worcester. So anyway, the mother starts harassing the daughter, and the daughter realizes, all right, maybe she doesn't actually want to be thinking about her mother because she forgot all of the bad's the wrong word, unhappy aspects of having the mother around. So she went and grabs the aluminum foil, and she goes up to all the ceiling fixtures, which she hadn't bothered to block out before. Now she does block out all the ceiling fixtures. And the room goes pitch dark because now there's no lights on anymore, but she gets up a bunch of candles. It puts candles out. And now the mother's voice is gone. So, and again, this is psychological here. So I'm not saying that there are ghosts appearing when she's doing this. I'm saying that because she's calm and quiet and able to relax, now she can start thinking about things that she hasn't thought about in a long time. So she sits on her couch, she relaxes, and now she hears her father's voice. And she gets very tense because while she at least thought of her mother as sort of warm and welcoming, she never really thought of her father as warm and welcoming. And she thinks her father's in hell. So, I mean, that's a sign of what she felt about him. So he goes, you're just like your mother, you know. She didn't put any good words for me from up there since I'm still stuck down here. So she thinks he's in hell. And he complains that the daughter was supposed to say prayers for him every day, and she says she did, and he says, well, you didn't really, you gave up on it, and look, now you're a metal cage like a freak. And Now, then he says, you should have just kept dating Carl. Who cares if Carl was harassing you and abusing you? You should have just married him. So clearly Dad has some issues here. And we also get a sense that this poor heroine had a lot of issues growing up between these parents and having an abusive boyfriend and so on. So she decides she has to block things further so that she doesn't have to listen to her father anymore. So she worries that it's the metal tiles on the floor that are letting little gaps of signal through. So now she goes to her bedroom closet and empties it out, and she puts aluminum foil on every single surface. So she's got her apartment walled in with aluminum foil and metal plates, and now she makes a little enclave inside her apartment, which is completely walled in. So she's got 2 layers, and hopefully nothing at all can get through there. So she gets into her closet, completely coats it, all sections with aluminum foil, and she goes in there with a single candle, and she closes the door. And now she's in a double protected area, and she feels complete peace and calm, and her father and her mother can no longer bother her anymore. She's safe in here. And her head begins to ache. The room starts to get unsteady. She thinks that she hasn't sealed the room enough, but what's actually happening, because she's completely sealed her apartment and then completely sealed her closet and walled it in, and she's got a candle in there, is now she's getting to oxygen deprivation because she's breathing, the candle's burning oxygen, and there's just carbon dioxide building up in here. So this is not healthy for her. And then she hears her grandfather, and she cringes because her grandfather is the worst of all in her family. So he says, "My sweet, darling, beautiful little Marissa, I am the only one who really loves you, you know. Your parents were too busy. My wife was too busy," her grandmother, and the granddaughter remembers that the grandmother had been a very quiet person who never said much of anything at all. And the grandfather, Papa, had taken her down into the grungy basement and had done things to her. We can assume that he sexually abused her. And he says, "Dearest Marissa, so pretty, this is our little secret, you know. No one else can find out because Nana would be so disappointed." And this is the kind of way that sexual predators deal with children. They say, "Oh, this is going to be your fault. If you tell anyone, that people will blame you. They'll send you away and you'll destroy everything, so you have to be quiet." So this goes back to a theme that I tend to cover a lot, which is that people are taught not to speak out about issues, and they're told if they speak out that it'll reflect badly on them, so they shouldn't say anything. So the heroine here needs to shut the grandfather out, and there isn't much left that she can seal up. So she grabs 3 pieces of aluminum foil. She puts one in her left ear, one in her right ear, and then she makes a bigger piece and she puts it over her whole head to cover her eye sockets, her mouth, and her each nostril. So now she's in essence suffocating herself to death when she didn't even have much oxygen to start with. She rips off 2 more sheets, and those are for her privates, and at that point she collapses. And one assumes she dies because she can't breathe and there's no oxygen left to breathe anyway. So that is the end of that story. Cover a lot of different issues in here that concern me. And I put it in a very personal location in Worcester, which is near me, and the bars in Worcester, which I'm very familiar with, and so on. So this one meant a lot to me. I think they all mean things to me in different senses. And like I said, I do care greatly about the death penalty and how we treat people with mental challenges. But this one in particular, I guess, feels closer. So hopefully I've unraveled the different sections of that for you so you can understand them better. Let me know if you have any remaining questions about the story or how it unfolds. Let me know in the comments if you've written similar stories. Please like and subscribe to this. And I will be back shortly, soon, with another story review. Great, thank you very much, and have a wonderful week.